Hello and welcome to Wrestling and Everything Coast to Coast with your host, Buddy Zutello Esquire and effervescent Evan Ginsberg, author, prolific man of prose and opinions. And when it comes to wrestling, when it comes to grindhouse stuff, we can talk a little bit about that sort of stuff tonight because we don't have really a huge agenda, but like always, it's an hour of therapy for the two of us, on-one therapy for the two of us.
You got it. I was weaned on pro wrestling, grindhouse films, roller derby. Um, I, like yourself, I actually loved sports when I was younger before it became almost, too expensive to attend anything. I went to the championship Knicks in '69 and '73 with my father. It was electric. Walt Frazier, Earl Monroe, Willis Reed, the Busher, Bradley. Oh my God. And nowadays it's 300 and change to sit in the nosebleeds. And I haven't been to a Knick game in decades. So you kind of lose, you're not emotionally invested. I mean, for the
Well,
players,
and we've said the same thing about wrestling too. It was one thing when they were in the Garden every month, and you could go see greats like Bruno Sammartino and Ken Patera and Superstar Billy Graham and Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair and so forth. And now, it's if you go once a year, and you haven't been to when was the last WWE match you actually saw live?
right before COVID, I went to a SmackDown taping and I walked out somewhere in the middle. It was like Pavlov's dogs. I'm sitting with parents and their kiddies, little kids, and they're responding to every entrance song. It there wasn't a single good match on the card. I shouldn't say that. I mean, there were a couple of okay matches, but I sat there and I kept going. I saw Don Morocco here. I saw Prime Greg Valentine. I saw Jimmy Snooker in his prime. I saw Piper tear the roof off the place. And I'm sitting here watching some silly TV taping, and it didn't do anything for me. And the poor guy sitting next to me, who I went with, who actually was a WWE fan, he had like an earful. So it was almost merciful that I left early because
Only thing is to think about what a great bargain they got. 5 years later, whatever they paid for those seats probably is now like two or three times more expensive.
oh my God, those seats are hundreds and hundreds of dollars now, and ringside itself is thousands. Some of those tickets, thousands. You
Yeah,
would
so at least
think,
they got their money's worth, even though it was a terrible show. In retrospect, they wound up getting a huge bargain because now, I mean, a family of four is just not capable of going to one of these events unless that's like you choose between going to Europe over the or you go to one WWE match and get decent seats.
I had this conversation with somebody today. I said, for me to spend thousands of dollars on anything wrestling related, it would have to be a trip to Japan for Wrestle Kingdom, plus some secondary New Japan shows, plus some other promotion shows, plus the touristy stuff, because I've never been to Japan. And I would jump on a plane and go to Australia because it would, make the trip easy as compared to New York to Australia, which is like 24 hours. And you know, in that case, I could see spending four, maybe even five figures and have a beautiful 2 or 3 week bucket list vacation. But I am not spending thousands of dollars to a WrestleMania. I mean, you have no guarantee that Roman Reigns at this stage of his career is going to put on any kind of great match in that main event. He's wrestled 22 times in 3 years, maybe a handful were great matches. The majority of them, he's down to the same three moves. Forget the same five moves. You know, it's then of course the Usos run out, and then of course the Bloodline runs out for the screw job finish. It's paint by numbers at this point, and you can see the guy doesn't. He's coasting to a degree. His heart's not in it, I don't think. And I'm a Reigns fan, and I just there's What I find interesting, though, is McAfee, who the WWE fans hate. I find him enjoyable. He cuts a great promo. He's actually saying stuff that's interesting. He goes, CM Punk, he basically called him a hypocrite. He said CM Punk hates, the authority and MAGA, but he has no problem taking a check from WWE, and there's validity to that. He has no problem going to Saudi Arabia and wrestling, so maybe he's not as enlightened as he thinks he is.
Well, yeah, I was gonna talk about the recent stuff that's been going on with McAfee and also, well, one thing was that coming up to WrestleMania, I have never heard people. I mean, people have not been thrilled with SmackDown for a long, long time. Probably there's more hatred of SmackDown on a per episode basis than there's ever been positive one. I think ever since SmackDown, like maybe since the early 2000s came out, more people have hated SmackDown, each SmackDown episode, than they've liked it. But this last SmackDown episode got more hatred for it than I think I've ever heard any SmackDown episode be criticized. And I don't know. Did you see it? Did you see that? No, you don't watch those things anyway. You don't watch SmackDown.
I watched the highlights because I was doing the No DQ review show and I wanted to be up on everything. Um, I mean, like I said, I
There were
enjoy.
two matches, right? There were on the whole card. There were two actual matches.
I don't know. Like I said, I was watching the highlights, but I enjoy McAfee. My first reaction was once McAfee and Jelly Roll got involved, it's, oh God, this is going to be a screw job finish too, and they're all going to run in the ring at the end, and that's going to, you know, lower the match a notch because I like Cody and Orton's still good for his age and I'm sure they'll put on a quality match, but now it's kind of interesting with McAfee riling up the fans and it's just some of it is just odd. Like McAfee's the heel and he's going, I'm lowering the ticket prices. Wouldn't the face say that? It's so, and you know what actually bothered me a little? Sami Zayn for God knows how long, a quarter century, comes out, busts his ass, and it's like they're trading him in for like the younger model with this Trick Williams. Trick Williams comes out. He's dripping in gold. He's wearing fur, which to me is not the right thing to do with somebody that loves animals. And he Trick Williams is the heel. He's got his rapper buddy with him, Yachty there, and I like rap. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But clearly, those two are the heels, and the fans are turning on Sammy, who's never once given less than 110% in a match. I mean, nobody's going to mistake him for Ricky Steamboat, but I mean, the guy always puts on quality matches, and the fans turned on him. It's like kind of like an ingrate thing, as far as I could see. Um, what's your take on that?
I think it's just kind of Sami Zayn fatigue. I think that fans have just seen Sami so much that they're just kind of tired of him taking up this kind of spot, and that they,
You could say that about half the roster. Randy
I
Orton's been
am
there
saying
longer
that
than
about
him.
half the roster. I am saying that about
Yeah.
half the roster. It's gotten very, tired, and I think this is. I like Trick though. I mean, I think the Trick has a lot of potential, and I'd like to see him get a greater push and be, a title holder and be involved in a major angle feud. So I'm disappointed that they're kind of wasting him in this WrestleMania match. I just don't feel that this is a match that's very inspiring. It's one you could easily see on SmackDown or on Raw. It has nothing to me that's special to it, and it's more like, oh, we got to get Sami Zayn into a match. let's throw Trick against him because
Well, if Trick wins the belt, that's what would be special, and I think he will.
yeah, I think so too, and I think it's just to be another one of those times that it might be a quality enough match, but I think that that's something that they could have instead of trying to shoehorn all this stuff into the 2 days of WrestleMania, which is something I'm not a fan of either. It's not that they'll ever go back to a 1 day WrestleMania because 2 days equals more money and all of that, but I feel you really get stretched by the second day. And these kind of mid-level matches are the ones that suffer big time when you have 2 days worth of wrestling.
Well, even AEW, I've attended their shows, and when you have 14 matches in one night, um, it's a 5, 6 hour slog. I mean, by the time you commute there, wait online to get in, you go through the metal detectors, find your seat, hit the bathroom, hit the
Concession
food,
stand.
the concession stand or the merch, whatever. Then you sit down and you have 5 hours of wrestling in front of you. You have 4 matches on the pre-show. They're instantly forgettable in the 0 hour AEW. And here's another thing I was talking about today.
Okay.
You have 14 matches on AEW. You have 14 matches at WrestleMania. You have a zillion matches in between on Raw and SmackDown and AEW shows and NXT. You could watch 75 matches this week.
Well, exactly.
I mean,
Or you can watch SmackDown where you'll have 3 hours of wrestling in 2 matches.
okay. But my point is, you have these two, if not more, incredible rosters, WWE and AEW. And between Sunday night tonight and next Sunday, you're going to have all these great wrestlers in dozens upon dozens of matches, 28 matches alone just between AEW's pay-per-view and WrestleMania. How many are actually going to be great wrestling matches, classic wrestling matches? This is the problem. So you have all these great wrestlers having okay, good, and very good matches, and the truly great matches are few and far between. And that's a shame. And part of it is the emphasis is on the endless entrances, the sing-alongs, the catchphrases, the product placement, the D-list celebrities, the run-ins, the screw-job finishes, the multiple commercial breaks mid-match on the regular TV shows, which are on cable TV, which you're paying for already, and then you have the commercials in the middle of the matches.
I was going to say, don't forget picture in picture. One of our favorites.
Well, they're doing less of that, it seems. But I mean, as an old school fan, I really don't care all that much about the storylines. I want to see a great wrestling match. And if I watch, let's say I just watch AEW's pay-per-view and WrestleMania this week. If I watch 28 matches and 5 of them are truly great, you're going to be grateful because the great matches.
Why not have just one card that has 5 great matches on? That's the way the NWA used to do it. That's the way when you would see like Mid-South do its booking. You'd have like you'd have 5 matches. 2 of them would be squashes, but 2 of the matches would be like decent, and then one match would be really, really excellent that you'd all remember, days later because it was such a great match. Now it's all just this giant melange of all these different matches that are just sort of thrown together with no. And you say the storyline isn't important to you, but it is important when you have something that is a build-up and that's something that you're looking forward to seeing a payoff for. And that, like for instance, I was watching this weekend. I watched a lot of Road Warriors versus the Midnight Express. I was kind of like, just sort of, well, let's watch the history of those 4 guys against each other. Actually, 5, if you want to include when they faced Dennis Condrey instead of when they faced Stan Lane. And it just, those were epic contests with so much energy and verve inside the ring that was going on between everybody, and the excitement of the fans to just see all those contestants in the ring fighting it out. There isn't that kind of intensity in the matches that you have today. I just don't feel that intensity, and I really was watching those matches to just see a guy like Condrey wasn't a huge dude, and Bobby Eaton, wasn't, cut like, he was made out of diamonds or anything like that. He's that part of that old school wrestling physique, where you're kind of the side of beef, but you were super tough and you knew what the hell you were doing in the ring, you know? And we're missing that kind of element. I mean, not saying go back to, guys who are not sculpted, but guys who are wrestling first and bodybuilders second, you know? Even the Road Warriors to a lot of extent. Yeah, they were huge and they were cut, but their dedication to what they did inside the ring was you couldn't question it. You could say all you want about them being stiff and all that stuff, but they sold it. You know, they were out there making you believe in what was going on in the ring. It didn't matter, okay, yeah, the outcome's scripted already. But when you watch, just like anything in all of your Grindhouse stuff and all the movies that you watch, you just don't want the actors letting you know that they're acting. The beauty of acting in itself is they're so good they make you suspend your disbelief.
Well, you have to care. Whatever the entertainment is, you have to be emotionally invested and care about it. So if you're watching the blow off to a big feud, it's the cage match, it's the third match at Madison Square Garden, and you're rooting for the face and you want him to pummel the heel, then you're involved. If it's like, oh, these guys have been here for 20 years, this is just going to lead to the next meaningless pay-per-view, it means nothing anymore.
And there's going to be a rematch tomorrow on Raw. They're just going to have a rematch anyway.
Or Reigns could win the belt and just disappear. The guy doesn't defend the belt, so
right.
What's the motivation to want him to win? It's the guy, like I said, the guy wrestled 22 times in 3 years, and about 2/3 of those matches were nothing special. So, if anything, I'd be rooting for him not to win. That's what I would be emotionally invested in. And I'm a Reigns fan, but the guy's just not what he was. So.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Cody Rhodes kind of had that, quick run as a champion. I mean, it wasn't an insignificant title reign. He had some time out there, but it looks like he's being kind of circulated back into contender status.
Oh, he still has the belt, but
I know, but I'm just wondering if the WWE is losing its desire to want to push him as like a mainstream star, outside of wrestling.
I think for the audience in 2026, a traditional soft-spoken face with with a suit and tie, I don't think that's what they're looking for. They like the tweener with an edge who's outspoken, and it's a different audience. But I basically, if I'm watching WrestleMania, especially for 2 days, that's a lot of time to invest. It's an entire weekend, basically. I just want to walk away going, those matches were great. Those great wrestlers had great matches, and you can't count on it. They're hyping Lesnar and Obafemi. I mean, Lesnar could be in, have a train to catch mode and be out there for 5 minutes, or he could wrestle his heart out. You don't know. He's hit and miss also these days. So I guess we're going to see soon enough. It's 7 days away, and before you blink, it'll be over. But I would not get on a plane to Vegas and spend three,
and
four,
I'm not getting on a plane
figures.
to the Emirates either. I'm not going to go to Dubai Saudi Arabia, to go see a WrestleMania.
Friend
You
of
know,
mine went, and like 3 weeks later, there was all kinds of chaos there at the airport. I'm not putting myself in any kind of situation,
no, I
especially
simply.
not for a WWE show.
Another thing I wanted to bring up was AEW has their event going on. I think it's still going on right now,
Yeah,
as a matter of fact. And what I coined the term last week, and I think I should be accredited with this, which the term titleitis. AEW
yeah. Oh,
has
yeah. It's ridiculous.
they have 11 matches, 8 of which are title matches. 8 out of the 11 matches involve titles. 8.
Yeah, yeah. Jack Perry comes out with the national title. So
Yes.
if that's the national title and the other titles are the world title and God knows what other titles, doesn't that say your title is worth less?
It is. And on the pre-show, there were 2 title matches. On the pre-show.
And the pre-show I watched, the 0 hour, it was instantly forgettable. I mean, it wasn't that it was bad. It was just okay, and it was rushed. They had 4 matches in an hour.
And as I said, it's amazing that you think so little of your titles that you put them on in a pre-show. That to me is incredible to think that you have. But that's because in the main show you have, I think, 2 matches that didn't involve titles. To me, that makes them exceptional.
I
Then
think
the
I think part of it today, honestly, they sell these belts for like $500 a pop, and the fanboys walk around like they're the champions, and they have a belt slung over their shoulder, like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and they're 4'8" and probably weigh 145 pounds, and yeah, they're the heavyweight champion of the world. I buy that. I believe that.
You're a Hill manager. When I did a little bit of that, a fraction as much as you did, I would see some guy sitting first row with a belt, and it would be like a stand-up comedian. I just went right at that guy.
Yes.
I'd get on the mic and go, "Excuse me, sir, who did you win that belt from?" And you could see his face like turn red.
Yeah,
I'm
or
doing.
how many boxes of Cracker Jack did you have to? How many Cracker Jack box tops did you have to mail in to get that one? You know, I didn't know the dollar store sold heavyweight championship belts. That's very impressive.
I've seen guys with like the Intercontinental belt, and they'll get like Valentine and Morocco and Tito Santana to sign it and hang it up in your house, and I could kind of see that because it's attractive and everything. But I'll tell you, I don't need to see another podcast where in back of the host there's like 4,000 action figures. It doesn't
We
scream.
have that for some of our guests here, and I don't mind that at all. I
But
mean,
it doesn't scream, serious journalist when you got 42 dolls behind you. I mean, it's
no, but
kind
it
of a
says you're a wrestling fan.
yeah,
You,
but
you,
it's kind of a stereotype,
I
I
mean,
think.
right in front of me, I have my collection of wrestling memorabilia in front of me, and so I have a few things, but yeah, it's not everywhere I go, but I like to have a few reminders of the days when I used to manage. Yeah, and it's one thing. A lot of people that we interview, it's in their actual man cave. So I think it's like the one place in their house where they
Oh no, I'm
are
not being I'm
allowed
not
to have.
being critical of it. I have memorabilia. It's just perception is everything. If I were going to a serious event and presenting myself, for example, I'm the senior editor over at ProWrestlingStories.com. I would be dressed well. I would be, you just want to come off a certain way. I'd be more in Cody Rhodes mode than in Zuba's mode or whatever. Like the
John
wrestlers.
Moxley.
Yeah. I'd look more like Cody than John Moxley, but John Moxley's a millionaire, so maybe he's doing something right and I'm doing something wrong. You
Something
know?
tells me that John, if he keeps doing what he's doing, is not going to enjoy the millions of dollars that he has. I think he's going to wind up being kind of like Sabu was, which is,
Every time I see Moxley, I think there's a masochistic streak in him, and a team of psychiatrists would have a field day with him because he's making millions of dollars. And why would you subject? He's not young anymore. He's in his 40s, I'm assuming. Why would you subject your body to that kind of punishment when you could basically, I'm not saying don't give your best in a match, but don't do insane stuff like Darby Allin does, and you're going to cut your career short. And I've seen way too many old school wrestling legends and heroes in wheelchairs, and and they just wrestled regular matches. They weren't leaping off of balconies and doing the crazy stuff that some of these guys do.
And that kind of leads into another topic that I did want to mention this week and discuss with you, which is that, last week we had Bronwyn, who is the daughter of the Dynamite Kid. And we both, talked a lot about during the show and on our own, on the Wrestling and Everything Coast to Coast Facebook page and on your Evan Ginsberg site, we talked about the campaign, the write-in campaign to get the Dynamite Kid inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. And one of our, co-hosts from Canada, Jonathan, he wrote a counterpoint, which was that, the Dynamite Kid had a lot of problems. He was not a really nice guy in a lot of situations. And maybe that should keep him out of the Hall of Fame. And we wind up at the discussion that we've had many times, which is still worth reinvestigating, which is that how do you separate the artist from the art and from the if the guy that you love the music of or the artwork of or the movie style of or the acting of or the wrestling of turns out to be a jerk in real life or criminal or has feet of clay outside of what they do in what you love about them, do you get past that and still put them in as a Hall of Famer?
Well, I think it comes down to what is your line in the sand. I cannot watch a Chris Benoit match. I just can't because every time I watch him, I think of how it all ended, and it was horrific, horrific. And I can't look at him. Now, James Brown, the singer, is one of my favorite performers, and there were arrests and allegations and whatever. I'm not a lawyer, you are. Spousal abuse and everything else. And I can put that behind me, and believe me, I've never put my hands on a woman. I wouldn't dream of it. I could still enjoy a James Brown performance, music or whatnot. I think I sincerely believe that if it was proven that Michael Jackson had been a child molester, I would not be able to enjoy his body of work. But that remains allegations. It hasn't been proven. So, it's complicated. It's what's your line where you could get past it. I mean, look, there's different levels of wrong. There's people in the Hall of Fame that are there because their husbands are on Triple H's good list or Vince's good list or whatever the case may be, who was a pimple on the ass of the Dynamite Kid as far as talent, importance, revolutionizing the business. They're in the Hall of Fame. You could have named 5 great matches some of these people had. They were married to the right person, or you know, it's very complicated. Bruce Lee is one of my heroes. He collapsed in his mistress's house. He had a devoted wife, children, and he died. And that doesn't make him the greatest human being in the world. I've never cheated on my wife. We're together 18 years. It's but do I stop watching his movies because he was flawed? Martin Luther King had lovers on the road. It's been proven. The FBI taped them. You know, History has him like he's a saint. I mean, he sacrificed his life for a cause. The fact that he cheated on his wife, no, it's not a positive, but you can't take away everything that he's done. I mean, you're from California. Right now, they're taking names off of buildings with Cesar Chavez because they said he was, a pedophile. And
Well, and we've got the whole situation with Swalwell, which we can make that a whole political discussion about that too. The guy who's running for governor just got busted for sexual harassment, and I mean he's not when I say busted, he hasn't been accused by the police or any authorities. It's just that these allegations that he raped some women and that he sexually assaulted them, and that's enough to cost him a governor's race.
allegations. I'll tell you a quick story without naming names. Good buddy of mine gets into an argument with a girlfriend, and she hits him. She hits him, and he did not hit her, but he grabbed her hand so she could not continue hitting him. So now she had marks on her hands or whatnot, and she was hysterical and called the police, and they took him in. And this guy was not an abuser or whatever the case may be, but you know her side of the story would have painted him in a really negative light, and he's been nothing but a hardworking, honest guy. And there's difference between allegations and a court of law, or a jury of your peers, you know, decides yes,
I
you're
do think
guilty.
there's a big difference though between he said and she said and he said and they say. That's a big difference. When it's multiple accusers, usually it's really hard to try to get multiple accusers to have their stories all sync up and everything. It's hard to get multiple people to lie in a situation like that. So the more allegations there are against somebody, the more believable they are
Oh
to me.
yeah, but the other thing is there's also selective indignation. Um, there are wrestling legends and entertainment legends who their wives have written books and accused them of beating them. And even on Dark Side of the Ring, they've mentioned guys who beat their wives. And because they were a great wrestler or they had a great gimmick or whatnot, the fans give it a pass. And somebody else said something and they're on the fans' bad list. You follow? It's like, okay, so and so was a great wrestler, great gimmick, greatly entertained you, but the guy beat his wife. So, you know, if you're okay with that, but you're not okay with the other guy, it's kind of selective indignation.
Well,
It's
that's what Jonathan was bringing up about, bringing up about the Dynamite Kid. Is that he did have a lot of problems, and
but
and
his daughter is forgiving him,
I
so
know,
maybe
which is
maybe
very
an
interesting.
absolute stranger could forgive. And again, as far as talent and influence and revolutionizing the business, he's more than worthy. The fact that he might not have been the nicest guy on planet Earth, it's like
Well,
it's
if you
like
do draw the line, then like which other WWE personalities do you have to kick out of the Hall of Fame? Because obviously Stone Cold, beat Deborah McMichael. And that was actually he was actually arrested for it, and so there's a number of
Wait, that was his wife?
yeah, yeah.
No,
There
I
were,
think you're getting the names mixed up. I'm not
oh
sure.
wait, no, you're right. Not Deborah McMichael. Who was his first wife that he had?
She wrote a book. She
Yeah,
wrote a book, the wife.
yeah. And so, I mean, do you take him out of the Hall of Fame based on that? Do you get rid of everything that Stone Cold has ever done? Of course, Hulk Hogan had his racial remarks which one could argue is not as severe as beating somebody up, domestic violence. But that, stuck around and was a big problem for Hulk Hogan even
I
in his
mean,
final
we're at
days.
a point in time where people are canceling celebrities because they have different politics, and if the right is, Bruce Springsteen's a hack and Barbara Streisand's a hack. No, they're not. You don't like their politics, and the guy if the guys on the left say Ted Nugent can't play the guitar, that's stupid also. You can't take away the talent because you don't like their politics. You could choose not to support their concerts and their music, but you can't it's lying if you go Bruce Springsteen's a hack and Streisand's a hack and Ted Nugent can't play a guitar. It's just stupid already.
Well, that's, I mean, kind of where we find ourselves. And again, we sort of back at the beginning of the discussion, which is that do you think that despite all of these things, that the Dynamite Kid should be in the Hall of Fame?
I do. If so you have allegations against Steve Austin, you have allegations against other wrestlers. Um, yeah, I mean, there are guys in the Hall of Fame that have serious allegations against them. They're in there. So, if that's not, and also there's no Hall of Fame. There's not a brick and mortar Hall of Fame. It's like what you're pulling down their statue. There's nothing there. You know, it's a
No,
gimmick
that's
that it's
true.
a
Well,
gimmick
I
that
guess it's
makes
on
them
the
money.
website. It's on the
It's a
WWE
website.
website.
Okay, they're gonna take his picture off the website. Whatever. It's I don't know. I
But it
mean,
obviously means a lot to like the families and the friends of that person that they get some acknowledgement and tribute to what they devoted their lives to, the business and the industry that they cared so much about.
yeah, the fact that their peers recognize them is great, is meaningful. Johnny Valiant was proud to be a Hall of Famer. He used to talk about it, and but at the same time, it's $1 billion company, corporation. Why not actually open an actual hall? Even if it doesn't make you a ton of money, just just to honor guys that made you all kinds of money.
Well, because you said it right there, because it doesn't make you a ton of money. That's all the WWE is truly interested in right now, is just absolutely maximizing the profitability of what they do. That's why they wanted, as you said, you sent me a thing or you posted a thing about how they're doing the $100,000 bus trip to Vegas this week
$10,000 to
each,
ride with Cody Rhodes in his bus. $10,000.
and watch him make some spaghetti or something, right?
I think that's a different one. That's in Italy for one of their European pay-per-views. You could make spaghetti with a wrestler for $9,500. That's some expensive pasta, boy.
I'm telling you, absolutely. I'm gonna take each strand of spaghetti and like eat it. Take a half hour to eat each strand so I can maximize
It's
the.
it's reached the point of absurdity, the money grabs and the prices and um, look, there's a lot of I was going to say there's a lot of great wrestling, but I caught myself. There's a lot of great wrestlers out there. If you treat it as a smorgasbord, you can find enough great wrestling in the course of a year to enjoy the sport, and you have to base things on your values. I Would I spend $100 for an okay seat to a great wrestling card? Yeah. Would I spend 1,000? No, no, absolutely not. There's no wrestling card that would warrant $1,000, you know, for one card. So there's my line in the sand. I'll pay X amount of dollars, but I won't pay this much. And everybody has to set their own. I don't want to feel like my pocket's picked by a greedy corporation. Same with concerts, same with sports. Knicks are going in the playoffs. I'm not spending $800 or $900 to sit in the nosebleed seats to watch the Knicks. No way. I'll watch it on TV.
Yeah. Yeah, because they just had SmackDown in San Jose. They just the last show that was on this week was in San Jose, and I didn't make any effort to go see it. Because I was actually looking online to see what the actual ticket prices were for that. Just looking it up right now. And normally that's something that me and my friends would all say, yeah, let's go see, and I didn't want to take the okay. So like for instance, on April 13th, tomorrow, there's the Monday Night Raw is coming out from the Golden One Center in Sacramento, and the cheapest seats in just absolutely the worst possible part of the arena are $84.
Right.
And then, oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. I just clicked on the live site. Those are sold out. So now the cheapest seat you can buy, which is all the way at the very top of the arena. And I've been at the very top of the arena, so I can tell you what that's like. And it's $101.
Yeah, that's what I said. Madison Square Garden was $122 on top. So, exactly. So let's say Gunther, who's my favorite WWE wrestler, was wrestling some top guy at Madison Square Garden. At the last minute, there was some tickets available on a ticket app. Yeah, I pay $40, $50, $60. I'm not paying 3, 4, 5 figures to see anybody. I'm just not. It's
Row G on the floor tomorrow night is $818, and that's
insane.
You're actually at the back row of the floor seats, so you don't even get that great of a view.
You can watch it for free on TV, and it's not particularly good.
No, it's a Raw. It's a Raw, and some people, whatever, are going to be paying $820 to go.
It's ridiculous.
I really, it's stultifying. That's not even like a WrestleMania. It's going to be, in fact, it's going to be nothing but WrestleMania pap tomorrow night. I mean, you're not going to get anything of any substance. They're not going to want to have any guys get hurt in anything major that's going on tomorrow night on Raw. And so you're probably going to see a lot of a lot of highlight reels. You're going to see a lot of replays. You're going to see a lot of interviews. And, maybe some pushing and shoving. And that's about all you're going to see tomorrow night, I bet. And people are going to pay $820 for that. So, yeah, it's just, eventually it is going to kill the product. It's going to make things so that people are going to start saying, I'm just not going to go to something.
Well, people are saying it already, and people are telling me that they're still paying off last year's WrestleMania because they ran up thousands of dollars.
I can't believe being that much in debt to go see a wrestling card where you're working, 5 days a week to pay off what you spent on WrestleMania.
The average person in America spends $1,000 at Christmas for their family, assuming that's their religion and their holiday, and they spend the rest of the year paying it off. It's similar to an expensive wrestling pay-per-view, and
This being said, that most Americans don't have $1,000 to cover an emergency expense.
well, this is what I'm saying. So either you stop going and you look your kid in the eye, dad can't take you anymore, or you splurge and say, kid, it's your birthday, it's Christmas, it's graduation, and I'm going to take you. And the rest of the year, you're paying it off, which is another reason they don't have monthly shows anymore. Now it's that special 3, 4, 5 times a year, even the Garden, which is supposed to be the Mecca, their home base or whatnot. So they used
What
to
they
run the
should do
golf.
is not monthly. What they should do, instead of having matches, they should just have payment events where you just go and show up and just empty your wallet
Yeah,
out at the, in the ring, and then leave.
yeah, that's
You know,
funny.
that's your
That's like Idiocracy. Like, yeah,
yeah, which, as I said, was incredible comedy until it turned into a documentary.
that's right. That's
You
right.
know, it's supposed to be distant future, and the distant future was 9 years later after they made that film. So, yeah. So anyway, I wanted to find out, have you seen any movies recently? Have you got like any quick movie reviews that you can
I
throw out?
saw an excellent film called American Fiction, and it's sort of along the lines of what we're talking about. Jeffrey Wright, who's one of our greatest living actors, and he plays a quality writer who can't sell any books because he refuses to dumb down his writing. He wants to be a quality writer. So he goes to this literary convention, and he's sitting on a panel, and there's like 15 people in the audience, and then he sees somebody who wrote this book that's like moronic, and it's packed with people and packed with media, and she's young and she's the hot new thing and she's edgy, and he's got a lot of family problems, a lot of money problems, and he actually starts to write a book and totally dumbs it down to the point that's moronic. And of course, it becomes a huge hit. It becomes a huge hit. And all of a sudden he's a celebrity. It's really, I mean, I'm a writer, so I can relate to it, but it says a lot about, like people have this, it's interesting with WWE. They mistake they mistake popularity for quality. So they're like, WWE has this many, followers on social media, and it generates this much money and this much ratings and blah blah blah. And I go, so does the Kardashians. It doesn't mean it's high art,
Yeah, McDonald's is not a quality meal, even though they sell billions of dollars worth.
Exactly, exactly. So, is success being an artist that's true to yourself, or is it pumping out mostly meaningless content? And,
Fortunately, on this show, we've had a ton of people who care about the content they produce and
yeah,
have produced some really wonderful things. And I think you and I, have celebrated those people. We've honored those people. We've given them the spotlight that they deserve, instead of, unfortunately, so often, as you pointed out, the dumbed down version of whatever, or, the McDonaldized version of whatever, winds up running to the forefront. I mean, people cared a lot more about the Arch Deluxe being launched than they cared about, whatever developments people made in the area of cancer research that week. I guarantee you that.
yeah,
Or somebody cured, some kind of, thing like, childhood disease or something. That didn't make the papers, but what did, or the internet, top of the internet news, the Arch Deluxe and the tiny little bite that the CEO made, and the terrible video, the cringe video that he made. is what everyone pays attention to. So, it's the economy of scale makes it has made it so that we recognize only the things that were big money deals as a success, quote unquote. And to be honest with you, my father was a big victim of that. I think my father was the kind of person that looked at things that succeeded so much financially and legitimized that because of the money it made. And I was always like, you know what? What about how was the thing itself? How were the people that did it? What was their motivations? Did the message they were trying to get across really work? And we argued over that many times because I think that was something that my dad was influenced by, and I'm not, because he was so influenced by it. I looked at that, I recognized it, and it's something I reject. So, even to this date, it influences what I watch and what I enjoy. I don't know about you.
We made The Wrestler. People will watch it 500 years from now. We made 350 Days, which is totally from the heart, and people will watch it, forever. And you could create art or you could create content. I mean, you could do a video with some guy with a six-pack of abs who's a moron, or some girl with huge cleavage who's an idiot, and you're creating content. You're not creating timeless art. So, everything's a choice. And not to come off as smug or anything, but about 80% of what WWE pumps out is instantly forgettable. And why not have great wrestlers have great matches? Why not create something that's meaningful instead of lowbrow for the most part? And
But even if it's something that's lowbrow, as a guy who loves grindhouse stuff, it's okay that you do something that's lowbrow if you're going to accept it as such. If you're not passing it off as high art, you understand.
Yeah, of course. I love grindhouse films, and I love bloody revenge filled wrestling where, like you said, the blow off to a big feud. But again, if it's all stilted, scripted,
Infantile,
geared towards like 12-year-olds who fell on their heads as babies, not even that intelligent 12-year-olds who do exist. I mean, it's, I want to care when I watch something, even WWE. It's funny. One of the things I sincerely enjoy about WWE is Danhausen, because it's just so over the top funny. It's
and he totally sells it. He totally sells it. He doesn't seem like a guy that's acting this way. It seems like that's how he really is, because he doesn't break character ever.
He has this quirky sense of humor. He's legitimately funny. He reminds me of like Triumph, the comic insult dog. It's just like always in character, and it's just funny, and it works. It works. But what doesn't work is some guy's cutting a promo. He doesn't speak well. The promo's idiotic. It's memorized. You could see it's memorized. I see wrestlers today. I mean, I'm involved in movies. I know. I see them and they flub a line. They've memorized lines and then they quickly correct themselves.
Oh, yeah. And if they say anything, they know well, at least it's not as bad maybe now with Triple H, but up until recently, they had that 400-page book that said everything they couldn't say.
Right.
And Vince makes them memorize that. So it's like you're talking in a literal minefield. And you know that if you say one thing wrong, you say the word ref, or you say title, or you say belt,
or wrestling, the word wrestling,
or you say squash, or you say kayfabe, or you say any of those words, that you're going to be fired. It's not even bad enough that they'll make you redo the line. They'll just let you say it, and then tomorrow everything is packed in a Glad bag and put out on the front porch like Mickey James. You know, even if you've been there for 20 years, they'll just pack everything up of your desk in a trash bag and throw it out the front door and say, you know, your stuff's out front. Don't come back here again, and have you escorted out by like 4 armed guards. You know, I just, I don't know. It's, you know, and that's the sort of thing that keeps me gravitating back towards the indie scene and enjoying talking to guys like Matt. You know, we're going to have the interview with Matt next week. And that was a really enjoyable
Tell
interview.
the fans who Matt is. They don't know.
Yeah, well, true, but but to talk to
Matt
guys,
who?
Matt Creed, he's been on the
That's
show
what I'm
before.
saying. Yeah, you got
Yeah.
to tell the fans. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, well, they'll see the bump for it next week. But when we talk to the guy who's in charge of an independent wrestling federation, it's a lot different. And I mean, the thought process isn't this committee speak. It goes through somebody that really cares about the product that's out there, and he makes sure that it's like a fine chef instead of like McDonald's, that, you know, is a restaurant that is a franchise, and you know, everything works off of a preset menu and everything is formalized. You know, when you have someone who's running an independent wrestling federation, you can talk to that person. That's a human being, and he can be influenced and think about, hey, is this angle working or not working, and make that change. He doesn't have to go through a committee and have to go through like a whole like survey system and all this other stuff to make stuff happen. That's why I find the independent stuff is just hitting me much more genuine, and it's like getting a hamburger made by a chef that like grew up in the neighborhood than one that just, you know, just you could replace instantly because they just do formulated food and it doesn't matter. You know, all the stuff comes from a corporate central location and shipped in the morning, and they just serve it to you all day long. You know, that's why I'm gravitating so much more towards the indie stuff. And as I said, you guys will see. I'll get to listen to Matt Creed's interview next week, and I hope you guys really enjoy it. So anyway, if you've got anything else to wrap up, we're right at the end of the hour here. So
yeah, check out Grindhouse, Odd House, and Wrestling Flicks, my new book. It's available on Amazon, 300 plus pages. Andre the Giant, Roddy Piper, Jesse Ventura, DDP, tons and tons. Blue Demon, El Santo, a deep dive into wrestlers in film and much, much more. It's for the film buffs and the wrestling fans. My lifelong love affair with the movies is the subtitle, and I think you'll enjoy it. As low as $9.99 on Kindle. And support indie publishing, support indie wrestling, support indie music, support indie everything. That's my mantra. That those billion-dollar corporations are doing just fine. So
you need your money. Exactly. I agree with that. Well, that being said, you know, I'll see you, everybody, in a couple weeks. I'll see you in a couple weeks, and thanks for being on the show tonight.
Thank you.
Also put your contact info out there. It's Evan Ginsberg's Old School
Wrestling Memories on Facebook.
Very good. All right, guys. Oh, guy. Yeah, I'm so used to Mike being here. I'm sure he'll be on in a couple of weeks. So we'll see everyone then. Have a good weekend, everyone. Good night, everyone.